We are going to be looking at some creepy videos, strange and odd news stories, and as always, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. So, shockingly enough, I finally have some good news for a change. People think that this channel and Minutes of Horror is nothing but bad news, fear mongering, mongering the little fears and so forth. Oh, the fear, Minutes of Horror, the fear. But no, this time I have some good news, and that is your tax dollars were finally at work and they paid off. And a government that would never, ever lie to its people finally has given us the answers we are all looking for. So, what am I talking about? Well, last night news came out that the Department of Justice, the DOJ, and the FBI, they have concluded that a certain Jeffrey that owned a certain island had no client list whatsoever, and not only that, they also concluded that he ended himself. Nobody ended Jeffrey. But before we go ahead and accept this answer, I do have a question myself, and I'm reading this article from Axios.com, which was published 12 hours prior to this recording. This article goes ahead and says that the administration, and they're talking about the Trump administration, is releasing a video in both raw and enhanced versions that it says indicates no one entered the area of the Manhattan prison where Jeffrey was held the night that he supposedly ended himself back in 2019. Now, continuing to read the article, it says, according to the memo, investigators closely examined footage of Jeffrey's Manhattan prison cell between around 10:40 p.m. on August 9th, 2019, when Jeffrey was locked in his cell, and around 6:30 a.m. the next day, when he was found unresponsive. The footage, which was reviewed by Axios but couldn't be verified independently, showed no one entering the area, the administration said. The FBI enhanced the relevant footage by increasing its contrast, balancing the color, and improving its sharpness for greater clarity and viewability, the memo says. So again, this was the video footage captured by the CCTV camera of Jeffrey's jail cell area. Investigators went through it with a fine-tooth comb, but here's the problem, and here's why they think we're stupid, that we cannot go back to previous news articles to investigate ourselves. But back on January 9th of 2020, news articles came out that Jeffrey's jail CCTV was erased by technical errors. There was no surviving footage of that day. Soon after Jeffrey had passed, in August of 2019, two of the CCTV cameras outside his cell had malfunctioned and were being examined by the FBI, United States media reported. But here's where things get a little bit more interesting, because back in July of 2019, Jeffrey supposedly had a first attempt which he survived. The video footage of his cell area was requested, and when it was given, the correct date and time was on that video footage, but it was of another cell area than Jeffrey's. It was a higher tier. When it came to the cell footage in August, well, again, the requested video no longer exists on the backup system and has not since at least August of 2019 as a result of technical errors. So even the backup video footage did not exist. Now here's the thing, there was surviving video footage of that day that captured the general shoe area, capturing all the cells in the area, including Jeffrey's, which they try to use as an example that nobody entered his cell, which nobody was buying. But again, when it came to any CCTV footage capturing his specific area, like this one right here, supposedly, it was destroyed in technical error. So somebody is lying here, and it's a very creepy lie. It's a very scary lie, because they think we're this dumb to buy something like this. This video footage is finally released to us 6 years later. I mean, this video footage could be AI, it could be heavily edited and cropped out, but I'm going to go ahead and believe that it's possibly AI video footage. People are also noticing oddities when it comes to this video footage as well. For example, if you go to 4 hours and 15 minutes of this video footage, it instantly skips from 11:58 to 12 a.m. in the morning. You can see it, but you can barely make it out because the banner is oddly enough hiding the time. And also is the fact that this is supposed to be a 10-hour video, but most of the video footage that has been released is only 7 hours long, showing the times between 7 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. And as this one commenter here had mentioned, he was found at 6:30 a.m. So nothing about this video footage really matters. The memo says that no one else involved in the case will be charged. The only other person charged in the case was Ghislaine, Jeffrey's associate, who is serving a 20-year sentence for child trafficking and related offenses. Going back to the Axios article, it goes on to say that investigators found no incriminating client list of Jeffrey's, no credible evidence that Jeffrey blackmailed prominent individuals, and no evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties, the memo adds.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So then the question happens to be, what was Ghislaine found guilty of? Yeah, she was involved in human trafficking, child abuse, and so forth. But if there's no client list, if there's no clients, you mean to tell me that Ghislaine and Jeffrey were only trafficking to each other? They weren't trafficking out to other people. Is that what they're trying to say? That is scary. That is downright scary. And I always said that the whole Jeffrey thing, when they're coming out with these details, saying they found something, they are going to bring people down. And the Diddy case were nothing but distractions. They were distracting us away from something. It's very funny that the Diddy case and the Jeffrey investigation concluded only days apart. So I guess whatever they were distracting us away from also concluded. But for those that knew, we knew that this whole thing was just a charade. Nobody was going to get in trouble. Nobody was going to go down. This is not a surprise to us. The article continues to say the DOJ and FBI say in the memo that no further disclosure of Jeffrey-related material would be appropriate or warranted. It's over. The memo says that much of the material relates to child abuse, details of Jeffrey's victims, and information that would expose innocent individuals to allegations of wrongdoing. They end with they are not going to release, disclose, or give any other information in regards to this case. The investigation has concluded. So in other words, good game, no rematch, go away. Now, if I was a person that believed everything that I was being told by news, media, and the government, if I was the type of person that turned on the TV and believed the man on the box, I would be absolutely mind blown. I would be absolutely shocked to my core. And the only thing that really stands out to me about this whole thing is that they had the audacity to release video footage that they told us was destroyed years ago. So anyway, not surprised, but moving on to this next creepy segment, about a couple weeks ago, I made a video where I said it seems like 2025 may be repeating events. And it's kind of eerie because we're getting closer to 9/11. We're 2 months away. And I said in that video, the news and media, for whatever reason, they keep bringing up 9/11. But it all started with this news story right here. This news story right here where firefighters, they go out to investigate this fire that was intentionally set. But unbeknownst to them, somebody was waiting for them with a gun. This individual, he ambushes these firefighters, shooting at them. 2 of them lose their lives, and I do believe 1 is currently in critical condition. And I said what's very weird is that 24 years from that exact date in the same state, firefighters, they set fire intentionally to a Aryan building, an Aryan property, burning down the property. So it was kind of like history repeating itself in a very creepy way. In the beginning of 2025, we also saw news articles released of history repeating itself when this Black Hawk helicopter crashed into this American Airlines plane. Everybody on board had lost their lives, but most of the people on board this American Airlines plane were figure skaters, ice figure skaters. Where we saw news articles of history repeating itself was the fact that back in 1961, there was a plane crash and everybody on board this plane crash had lost their lives and everybody on board were ice figure skaters. There were also a few other events that happened in 2025 where we said, hey, this also happened years ago, but more recently was this flood in Texas. And once again, oddly enough, we are getting news articles coming out saying history is repeating itself. Take, for example, this news article right here from the New York Post, which was published on July 4th. Catastrophic Texas Christian summer camp flooding, eerily similar to 1987 disaster along the same river. What's even more interesting is that the flooding that took place in 1987 and the flooding that took place in 2025, not only did they both occur in the exact same month, July, but also both involved church camps. Continuing to read this article from the New York Post, it goes on to say the flooding that overwhelmed Texas Guadalupe River on Friday and stranded members of an all-girls Christian camp is proving to be worse than a 1987 disaster triggered by a near-identical deluge that drowned 10 teenagers attending a church camp. The 1987 Guadalupe River flood caught campers by surprise on the evening of July 16th after an unexpected thunderstorm strengthened by a cold front, dumped nearly 12 inches of rainfall over Hunt, Texas. The camps located along the river quickly started to evacuate early the next morning as water levels swelled to 29 feet high after rising a frightening 25 feet in just 45 minutes, according to the National Weather Service. Back then, a total of 33 people survived out of the 43 people who were swept away by these floodwaters. But again, it's just another interesting case of another horrific big event taking place in 2025, and once again, we're being told that history is repeating itself. Again, as we get closer and closer to the anniversary of 9/11, and a lot of people feel like there's a big false flag coming, especially after this Denver airport video where this woman said a bigger attack than 9/11 is on its way. So the question happens to be, before 2025 comes to an end, are we going to go ahead and see history repeat itself once more in a much bigger way? But what does happen to be interesting is that I made a video on my other channel, Minutes of Horror, where I said that there may be a big false flag that might take place on July 4th, 2025. But I said that this false flag will not come in the way of explosions, bombs, destruction everywhere. It'll be a lot more subtle. And it was mainly due to this document that was found and created by the government back in 2023, published in 2024, about a 9/11 style attack that would take place on July 4th, 2025. And they did not realize that an attack had actually taken place until months later, because this attack was a bio-attack. The virus they used in this scenario, and you can read from this part right here from this document, laboratory tests confirmed that the Nipah virus caused the disease, but we still do not know what methods our adversaries used to infect humans and spread the disease among livestock in rural communities. Animals and people were sick for more than a month before we realized what had happened. But here's what's interesting. Now, while this news does not come out of the United States, this does take place on the exact same day that this scenario takes place. This article I'm reading from ndtv.com, Kerala on alert after 2 suspected Nipah virus cases spark concern in 3 districts. Health authorities in Kerala on Friday issued an alert across 3 northern districts after 2 people showed possible signs of Nipah virus infection, reviving fears of an outbreak that the state has battled in the past. So again, they're saying that the Nipah virus might rear its ugly head once again in India, oddly enough on July 4th, 2025. Here in the United States, when it comes to this document anyway, this fake scenario, we did not realize that we had the Nipah virus until more than a month after July 4th, 2025. And again, it was a bio-attack that they are saying that's on par or much worse than what happened on 9/11. Because if you read this document, 9/11 is referenced quite often in this document. Some of you may be saying, well, it's India. India has been known to get the Nipah virus more frequently than other countries. But again, what are the odds that this document was able to accurately foretell the date when the Nipah virus would once again appear in the news? But I guess the reports of people in India having the Nipah virus on July 4th, 2025 is just a mere coincidence, nothing to see here. The most recent update when it comes to the Nipah virus over in India, and I'm reading this from the Economic Times, Nipah virus in Kerala, over 400 under surveillance, containment zone declared, 1 critical, 1 deceased. So as of right now, it has now grown to 425 individuals that have been placed on the Nipah virus contact list across the state. In other creepy news, more than likely this 19-year-old pilot will never be seen again, and this is the reason why.
Also developing tonight, this 19-year-old self-taught aviator with ties to Memphis was detained in Antarctica while attempting a solo flight to 7 continents. According to CNN, Chilean authorities detained Ethan Go for breaking multiple national and international regulations by changing his flight plans without prior notice. The Chilean court decreed a 90-day investigation period for this case, during which time Go must remain in Chile. Action News 5 featured him back in 2023 when he began his solo flight right here in Memphis to raise awareness for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Now, we are fully aware as the public, we are not allowed to just freely visit Antarctica. We can go, but we would have to follow very strict regulations and guidelines and be with a tour group. All these countries that we are told have conflicts with one another, Russia, China, the United States, they all agree with one thing. that nobody can freely go to Antarctica. This 19-year-old said, screw it, I'ma go. I want to see what's the big deal about Antarctica, what they may be hiding. And they got him real quick. So like I said, I am sure this story will be swept under the rug, and we will never hear from this 19-year-old again or what he may have saw.
I have a strange feeling that Antarctica is holding some very big secrets that will change our perception on our entire world. You may have already heard about this, but a 19-year-old pilot was detained immediately after taking a solo unauthorized flight to Antarctica. He didn't just fly near the area, he fully landed, and apparently a really big deal was made out of this whole situation. I find this so interesting because when I would see videos about how people are not allowed to go to Antarctica, people would comment and reply saying that you can just fly there, but we see the truth is that you will get detained or arrested immediately if you step foot there without proper clearance. Also think to yourself, why is it that countries all over the world can't come together for world peace or to solve world hunger, but they can all of a sudden all collectively agree to keep Antarctica as a protected land that nobody's allowed to go to? That just seems suspicious. And on top of that, there are countless stories from people who have actually been to Antarctica, and they give an entirely different narrative of what's actually there. They talk about new lands and technology that we have no clue about. I think Antarctica is holding some big secrets, but let me know what you think in the comments.
Moving on to other very creepy news, I also made this video right here about a couple weeks ago where these black things that I have been talking about for quite some time, appeared coming out of the water during this news report.
Alright, y'all, look at this.
Yesterday, and unfortunately that rain does stick with us with
That's a bird.
chances as we head into the afternoon. This is our look over Pensacola Beach on our generator guys camera. We have
That's a bird. The f that? What the f that?
I don't think
What is that?
And I also said in that video that they are giving us very powerful AI as a excuse, an answer as to the very strange things we'll be seeing, recording and uploading to the internet. Anything strange we see, we record it. There will be people out there that will say it's only AI. But I also said in that video, it's very interesting how the news cameras cannot hide things that they are capturing. Well, it seems like it happened once again. Whatever that was, it was very fast and it was black, and it reminds me once again of these black flying things also seen in that other news report coming out of the water. These black things are being seen more and more, and they do not give me a good feeling whatsoever. Maybe they're some kind of harbingers of doom, something like a Mothman, and let's not forget, they were also seen flooding the skies during the LA fires. It's so weird. Look at the crosses it makes, and then you see it shoot through the water. These things are fast. These black flying things are very, very fast. And it's very eerie that these are constantly being picked up by news coming out of the waters, being involved with waters, given the fact that pretty much there are floods taking place all over. This is what's currently happening over in North Carolina.
What is that?
Oh my God. Oh.
What is that?
Oh no, this is not good, man. This is not good. Look, dude, those people in that house right there. Oh no, get out of there.
Alright people, so we got severe flash flooding happening here in Orange County, North Carolina. This is the worst flooding I've seen in the Chapel Hill, Carrboro area. Anybody that tries to come out here and drive it tonight, please don't do it. Look at this. There's a waterfall where there shouldn't be one. This whole lot. This whole parking lot. It's just incredible river that's just going all the way down, man. There's multiple cars that have been stranded. After just being getting dumped on here by the remains of Tropical Storm Chantal.
This video comes from Moon Henry.
The entire world is flooding right now. Everything you see happening behind me is all happening in the last 24 hours as the death toll in Texas rises to 78 people. And I kid y'all not, Kerr County right now is warning of another wall of water approaching. I hadn't even shown you the most terrifying part, but we'll get there. So this is Indonesia. This right here is in the UK right now. This is Pakistan in the last 24 hours. Again, massive flooding, historical flooding happening all over the earth. Wonder why? This you see behind me at the beginning of the video as well is in Italy. I'm telling you, things are just crazy revelatic right now.
Not a real word.
I know, I made it up and it's my word. You can use it though. This right here is in France. This up here is in North Carolina. This right behind me is Algeria in the last 24 hours. Can we just agree that this is not normal? And the people that have been claiming all this stuff is normal is absolutely fooling themselves. And this right here is the terrifying part. This is an anomaly map. It shows the difference in average temperature. And right this minute in the Mediterranean, it's 8 degrees Celsius different. That is 44 degrees Fahrenheit different of the average. Last week I was warning of a great hurricane for 2025 based off the temperature maps and charts going back 100, 200 years. Because every time there's a massive shift up or down in temperature, we saw a giant hurricane that year. And yes, I made that prediction in that video a week before the Texas stuff happened. Because if you learn the correlation and the patterns, you can accurately predict what the weather is going to look like that year. And look, you're perfectly capable of doing the same thing I did. Take this chart, look at every massive shift, what year it was, and check what hurricane was there. And if these patterns and correlations would go back to 1780, it's the exact year of the shift for the Great Hurricane. Again, 22 to 28,000 deaths. And as I've been showing you last year, all this crazy heat all over the place correlates perfectly with all this abnormal frequency. Everything is frequency. By the way, completely unrelated to frequency, remember, Alaska had its first ever heat warning. Heat frequency. And again, you take our chart, you look at our year, you see it's time for a massive shift, but we're shifting towards massive heat, unlike we've ever seen before. And this right here is what it's going to bring. Don't believe me? Bookmark it.
And on top of everything else, this video comes from Elena Hernandez 74. 2 moons are once again seen in the skies, and this was captured over in California.
Sí, 2 lunas y se ven las estrellas ahí. Igual, lo mismo, pero no está. No aparece la luna tampoco.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.